Hello, I'm Azai. Welcome back to the first Grisaia. I just came back from the gym. This is Monday. I haven't actually done my Zwift session, which is my indoor bike training. I will be doing that after this recording, actually. So on the weekends, I actually went to my sister's place to do a sleepover. I haven't been doing that for the past month or so, and yeah, I actually do think I enjoy doing that. That's why there wouldn't be any videos on Saturdays and Sundays. In case you guys don't know, on YouTube, people on Patreon get like these videos like as soon as I'm done with them. So I've been recording like 6 videos or something last week. So I basically have so many videos that you guys haven't seen yet. But enough about that, enough about what I'm doing. Let us continue Grisaia. I think last time we finished off the last of Amane's sex scenes, hopefully. And I think we're going to be at the meat and, what is it? Meat, what's the saying? Meat and bones? No. Meat and soup? Basically at the most important thing of our route. At least I hope. If my bad premonition is telling me, or if my hunch is correct, there is like actually one more sex scene, and I am going to be dreading that sex scene. Man, you guys are not missing much on Amani's sex scenes.
夏祭りだよ、マキちゃん。盆踊りだよ、マキちゃん。マロカリス言えちゃってるよ、マキちゃん。何ようるさいわね。たかがお祭りでなんでそこまでテンション上がるのよ。だってお祭りなのよ。若者なら前後の見境もなくはしゃぐのが当たり前なのよ。調子に乗って気になる男子に処女あげちまう日なのよ。そんな人違う。つか、それどこのお祭りよ。アフリカかどっかの成人の儀式と勘違いしてんじゃないの？
I don't think people in Africa do that. I'm not sure though. Maybe I'll ask one of my friends for that because he is actually African.
ですが、みちる様、先日拝読しました雑誌の資料によりますと、お祭りをきっかけに処女を喪失するガールはここ数年増加の傾向にあるとか。だからそうやって何でもかんでもマスコミに踊らされないの。処女あげるって誰にあげるつもりなのよ。じー。
Why are you people staring at me?
だってねえ、どうせあげるならねえ、サッチ。
Man, you guys are way too horny, damn it.
そうだね。初めてだし、どうせなら上手な方の方がねえ。
Damn you people! Can you not think about sex in this situation?
女の子の低層はとても大切なの。そう簡単にポコスカあげていいもんじゃないの。つうか、ユージが上手だって保証もないでしょ。そんなことないのよ。あんだけ毎日アマネーとバコバコしてんだから、すっげー上手に決まってんのよさ。それに以前あまねさんがあいつ超うまいよと腰をもじもじさせながら言っていらしたので。
I swear, this route makes all these girls a lot more sexual than they need to be. Were they really like this in the common route? Or was a lot of the stuff just censored out? That's why I wasn't as annoyed. I don't know, like right now I'm blaming everything on Amane.
それはもう超なのではと期待はムクムクと膨らむ一方です。
You're done, Sachi? I thought you were gonna say something more.
膨らますな、そんなもん。ムクムクすんな。そうだぞ。むしろ膨らむのはお兄ちゃんの股間なのよさ。
I'd like to see you try, punk.
そんなことを言ってていいのかい？私この下はパンツ履いてないんだぜ。
Did I say just how much more charming Michiru is? Or sorry, not Michiru, Makina is after I was done with her route? Damn. Even her saying all this stuff, like, I know she's being so haughty, but I really do enjoy her interactions.
あ、マキちゃんずるい。だったら私も脱いでくるんだぜ。
You're not even wearing a kimono, or I actually don't know the difference between a kimono and a yukata. So I assume this is a kimono, but I could be wrong. That won't be necessary.
チルチルは脱がんの？脱がないわよ。なんで脱ぐのよ。意味わかんなくない？っていうか、そういうのは自分で脱ぐんじゃなくて脱がせてもらうもんなんじゃないの？みちる様は脱がせてほしいそうです。
And why are you telling me this? I'd rather shave a grizzly bear.
なんでよ。汚いもの見るような目で私を見るな。別に汚くないし、脱がしなさいよ。
You understand what you're saying, woman?
はあ、違うのよ。脱がさないで。脱がしちゃダメ。今のなし。想像しいわね。一体何を騒いでいるの？はあ、由美子、違うの。っていうかあんたはちゃんとパンツ履いてるわよね。はあ？ちょっと松島さん、あなた頭は大丈夫？真剣な顔して私の頭の心配するな。もうなんなのよ、ムッキー。これ由美ちゃんは浴衣着ねえの？せっかくのお祭りなのに。
Yeah, I thought this was a kimono, so I really have no idea what the difference is. Maybe just the design? I don't know. Seems the same to me.
いいのよ、このままで。どうせ楽しんでいる余裕もないでしょうし。また何かお仕事が？ええ、カラオケ大会の審査委員長ですって。バカバカしい。
How did you, of all people, end up with a job like that?
はい、榊さんのご実家の盗品グループはここ三島崎の経済を支える大企業ですし、今回のお祭りにも多大なる援助金を提供していただいているメインスポンサーなのです。おそらくはカラオケ大会の優勝商品であるガム島旅行も榊さんのご実家の提供かと。
I see. So that's how she ended up as the chairman of the jury.
余計なことは言わなくていいのよ、小峰さん。あ、はい、すみません。つい出過ぎたことを。別に責めているわけじゃないわ。気にしないで。とにかくそういうことだから。お祭りに遊びに行くのは構わないけれど、くれぐれもうちの学生として恥ずかしくない行動を心がけてちょうだい。大声でパンツパンツと叫んだりしないこと。いい？松島さん。なんで私にだけ言うのよ。そんなパンツとか叫んでないし、パンツとか叫んでるじゃない。静かにしなさい。すみません。ユミちゃんもあれな、大変な。きっと偉そうなじいさまたちに酒ついで回ったりすんだろうな。いいとこのお嬢様なんて所詮は親の人形なのよさ。またあんたはそうやって面倒くさいことを言い出す。
I think she's actually right though. That's probably what Yumiko is doing.
なーに？なんかあったの？
No, nothing in particular. You finished changing?
ほら、どう？似合う？
I thought Amani's figure wouldn't work too well with traditional Japanese clothes, considering her long legs and comparatively short torso, but somehow or other, it actually looks really good on you.
アマネーはずるいのよさ。何着ても似合うんだもの。そっかな。心なしか、最近はお尻のあたりがますますむっちりとして色っぽくなったような気がします。アマネー、あんた太った？失礼ね。太ったんじゃなくてウエストが痩せたの。だからお尻が大きく見えるのよ。
That's what they all say, Amane.
なるほど。確かにケツがパッツンパッツンなのよさ。 お尻叩かないの？
あれ？あまねえ。まさかこれってパンツ履いてないの？
I feel like we are definitely gonna have a sex scene, aren't we? Ah.
どれどれ？あ、ほんとだ。浴衣の上にラインが出てない。あんた、パンツ履いてないでしょ。もう、そうよ、履いてないわよ。いいからお尻触るな。
Right, hands off. That ass belongs to me. If you want to touch it, you need my formal permission.
私のお尻は私んだ。触ってもよろしいでしょうか？
Very well, I'll permit it.
簡単に許可を出すな。なんだかドイツのスポーツカーのようなお尻です。
You're exaggerating, Sachi.
おお、ポルチェな。キャレラ RS な。なんだこの尻、エンジンでも詰まってんのか？
だから叩くな。もういいから、ほらお祭り行くわよ。
んだよもう。ケツぐれケチケチすんねん。減るもんじゃ。
ほら、
Sorry,
マキちゃ
my
ん
bad.
行こう。さあ、みちる様も。
I thought that I heard something downstairs. I'm expecting a package.
そうね、行きましょうか。
We set off as a group toward the main street of the shopping district, where the festival is being held. The sun's just reaching the horizon as we embark. The cries of higurashi cicadas fill the air.
おお、ギルロッシが鳴いている。
日暮らしだよ、マキちゃん。誰よ、ギルロッシっていうか、シしか合ってないじゃない。サチ、あんた今のボケよく拾えたわね。マキちゃんとのコンビももう随分と長いので、大体は勘で。
I mean, once you kind of figure Machina out, it's not very difficult to know what she's getting at, even if she is saying the wrong things.
ギルロッシとヒグラッシはすごく似ている。
似てないわよ。っていうか、いつの間にか日暮らしに小さい「つ」が入っちゃったわよ。メロンパンとクリントンぐらい似てるよね、マキちゃん。
How is that the same?
しか合ってねー。それを言うならクリキントンとクリントンじゃないの？それはどうかと。なあ、ここに来てまさかの裏切り。
What the hell kind of a conversation is this?
ちょっと待ってよ、ユージ。歩くの早いよ。
Ah, yeah. Judging from the way Amani's tottering desperately forward with short, awkward little steps, I think it's fair to say she doesn't have much experience wearing traditional Japanese clothes or wooden clogs.
なんかさ、大股で歩くと見えちゃいそうで。
Maybe you should have thought of that before you went outside without any underwear on.
パンツ履いてないのはいつでも OK の合図だよ。
I hate you, Amane. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I know some people think this is sexy, but I don't have sex anytime that I go outside, or, you know, I don't have sex in my head every time I breathe. Like, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. Sure, sometimes I'm horny, but Amane, you are a sexual deviant. You never go out of heat, do you, Amane?
何言ってんだよ。あんたみたいな性欲底なし男の相手ができるのなんて私ぐらいなんだからね。
I mean, I don't think Yuji's that much of a beast. Like, in Machina's route, he only did it twice, and that was about it. I don't think he does it all that often. True enough.
おーい、アマネー、お兄ちゃん、早く早く。
I really do think Yuji is just humoring her, you know? Like, if Amane wants it, he's gonna do it. It's not like he's the one that wants to do it in the first place, I think. But I'm not sure. We'll see as the other routes go. But for now, we definitely see Amane being the slut among or in this relationship. No need to rush. The festival's not going anywhere.
仕方がないよ。マキナはお祭り大好きだから。ほら、行こう。
Yeah. It might be a festival organized by the local shopping district, but since it's got powerful financial support, the grounds are actually a pretty impressive sight. Our school offered its own contribution in the form of manpower. Earlier in the day, Amane and Sachi helped set up booths and pulled floats for the children's festival. As my own community service, I mowed the grass and labored to help set up the tower for the bond dance. And despite her stated opinion on children, to wit, I can't stand kids. They're noisy and spoiled and don't listen to a thing you say. They cry over nothing. They think they can get away with murder if they bawl hard enough. What the fuck? I don't think children actually do think that way. Just watching them pisses me off. Michiru nonetheless gave in to Amane's cajoling and volunteered at the children's festival, where it seems she diligently and cheerfully made batches of free cotton candy for the crowds of kids.
ねえユージ、この話聞いた？
Heard what?
マキナの話。
You don't need to stick your nose in my face.
キスしたくなっちゃう？
So that's a request, I guess.
違う！マキナがね、この先のパン屋さんでアルバイトしてるでしょ？
Yeah, so it seems.
でね、私何言おうとしてたんだっけ？
How the hell would I know?
ああ、そうだ。そのパン屋さんがね、お店の前でホットドッグの屋台をやってるらしいんだけど、そこでね、マキナが焼いたパンを売ってるんだって。
Okay. Oh, bread machina baked. I'm interested to see that.
でしょ？だからさ、後でこっそり買いに行ってみない？
Yeah, sounds like a plan. What? Are you angry about something?
もうこの
Ow! What was that for? Don't smack my ass.
いきなりキスした罰。
Kind of a delayed reaction, don't you think?
女の子にはね、キスしてもいいタイミングとキスをしてはいけないタイミング、そして最後にもう一つのタイミング、合計3つのタイミングというものがあるのよ。
Oh my god, I don't know, Amane. Damn you! I mean, I am very inexperienced in this department, but I don't know, man. Maybe my personality is just so bad that I really don't care about this shit, Amane. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a boring person. That a fact. Fascinating.
この
Look, what's your problem? No need to resort to violence.
最後の一つのタイミングは女の子にはキスしてほしいタイミングがあるのよ。今のは会話の流れで理解できたでしょ？
Heh, deliberately playing dumb about these things is a rule of mine.
何さかっこつけちゃって、もうキスさせてあげないわよ。
Cheeky girl. You think you have the right to refuse? Close your eyes, open your mouth, and stick out your tongue. In that order. Need me to repeat that?
もう仕方がないな。こっち来てよ。ここじゃ難しいし。
I hate you, Mane. I hate this route. No, this music's playing, damn it. I hate you. I hate this music. Well, maybe not during Sachi's scenes, but Amane, damn you. Look, it was obviously a joke.
女の子にここまでさせて冗談だって。そっちの方が失礼じゃない？ほら、キスしていいよ。したいんでしょ？
Can you close your eyes for me and open your mouth? Now stick out your tongue. The tip of Amane's plump tongue peeks out through the small gap between her lips. Further, you know how ridiculous you look, Amane? Yuji is he's such an asshole, man. You have no idea how ridiculous you look right now.
Hey!
Ow! How?
女の子に恥をかかせた罰。
Okay, so are we not having sex? The music's gone, and I'm all for it. Sorry. No need to get so angry.
あんたね、女の子のキス顔見て笑うって最低だよ。
What's the big deal? It's a classic part of the sappy lovebirds routine. You're fond of that sort of thing, aren't you?
バカップルか。そっか。私たち他から見るとそんな風に見えるんだ。
Are you seriously just realizing this now?
そっか。そうだよね。
Something wrong?
なんでもないの。ねえ、ユージ。
Okay, I'm a little worried by the sudden gleam in your eye.
バカップルはさ、やっぱり浴衣でエッチしちゃうんだよね。
You for real? Well, I did have a premonition you'd say something of the sort eventually, but...
だんだんユージも私のことが分かってきたみたいね。
Just because I understand doesn't mean I'm going to humor you, Amane. That is usually my stance when it comes to anything, really. I don't know about understanding, more like I'm getting used to it.
ねえ、どうする？やっちゃう？
Can I have a choice? Well, do you have a rubber on you? I sure don't.
ああ、さすがに私も用意してなかったな。どうしよう。
Anal again? Damn it, Yuji.
あ、ごめん。今日はそっちの準備はしてないから、本当ごめん。
We could call it off.
いいじゃん。生でしちゃおうよ。
Man, they're so casual about this. Maybe the fact that I don't like Amane being like this is the fact that it's from my own inexperience. I don't know. But then again, like I said, I'm not really fond of people that are too vulgar in general. Like, I don't mind occasionally, but if they're just vulgar every time I talk to them, it's like, really? We're still students, you know? We should at least be using contraception.
なーによ。子供ができたら産んでいいって言ったじゃんさ。あれって嘘だったわけ？
Don't be an idiot. I wouldn't say something like that unless I meant it.
ユージ大好き。ね、しちゃおう。いいでしょ？
Man, this is all propaganda, I'm telling you. Because Japan has such a low birth rate. They're making people try to have sex anytime they can. Finally reached the point of fucking outdoors, huh? We've sunk pretty low.
動物園デートキャンセルしたくせに。
Ugh. You know how to hit me where it hurts, you know that? Oh, right, I forgot she did that stupidly annoying piece of shit after we did the work, right? Or after we were working. How she was, how it seemed like she was planning on going to suicide. Wow, yeah, I forgot about that. Because it's been a couple of days. Damn it, Amane. Oh my god, that kind of made me mad again. Well, fine. No reason to turn down what's offered to me. See that typo? But where do you plan to do this?
こっち来て。
Amane pulls me by a hand down a short flight of stairs, her wooden sandals clip-clopping against the stone. She leads me behind a Shinto shrine, the bustle of the festival growing fainter with every step.
ほら、こっち。
Ah, I see. We're behind a shed, in a small area where the portable shrines carried by children are usually packed away to await the next festival. The odds of anyone coming back here before the festivities are over is effectively zero. I mean, there might be people that are thinking about having sex outside too. Amani's expression grows dreamy and blissful. Giggling sweetly, she cuddles up against me, nuzzling her head under my jaw. I'm strongly reminded of this bit I saw on TV the other day, about the mating rituals of wolves.
ユージの匂いだ。
Don't push your nose into my neck. You really are a dog in human form, you know that?
ねえ、知ってる？男と女の相性ってね、匂いでわかるんだって。
I don't know if that's true or not, but Really, I don't care, Amane. My goodness. A lot of the stuff she's saying lately has been something that I really do not care about. Amane, what happened to you? Yeah, I remember reading something of the kind. When humans hit puberty, they develop a natural dislike for their parents. Apparently, that's at least partially the product of a built-in biological antipathy to those with similar genes. Of unbuilt-in? I don't think that's right. Isn't that supposed to be an As a safeguard against genetically crippling incestuous mating. And there's a theory that we instinctively determine the genetic suitability of potential sexual partners from the information encoded in their body odor. Say that to like people who are living in the 1800s or even longer than that, Yuji. Incest was such a common thing back in the day.
私ね、ユージの匂い好きだよ。なんかね、ずっと嗅いでると頭がクラクラして無駄に興奮してくるの。
Dear God. I see. I believe the technical term for your condition would be estrus. Do you ever feel the need to elevate your hindquarters? The fuck is that?
ねえ、ユージ。ほら、触って。
Your yukata's getting all disheveled, you know?
いいよ。
Don't worry, guys. If all the other sex scenes are any indication of this current one, you're not gonna be missing much. Her massive breasts, as always, exceed the capacity of my hands, and today, her nipples are almost painfully erect from the very start. It would seem wandering around without any underwear had something of an effect on her. My hand, which had found its way to Amane's groin without any conscious direction on my part, finds her soaping with warm liquid. You're wet already?
うん。だってずっとノーパンだったし、なんか変に意識しちゃって。だからもう入れちゃっていいよ。来て、この子でチッポいっぱいしごいてあげる。
Okay then, don't mind if I do. Hey, Amane? You alright there? Are we Gucci? Can I show YouTube this now?
ごめん、ちょっと今一瞬頭どっか飛んでた。
Can you stand up? You'll get dirty if you stay on the ground.
ごめん、もう大丈夫。なんか私激しく生かされると目の前が暗くなっちゃうのよね。鉄分不足かな。
Having sex standing up is a hell of a workout on the legs. Maybe you're a bit anemic.
そうかな。ごめん。言ってる最中に抜けちゃったね。こっち来て、お口で吸い出してあげる。
You don't have to, Amane. Please, you don't have to. You really can't pass up a chance for a blowjob, Amane.
そんなの。だから、ユージだからしてあげるんだよ。まだ出てるよ。
Ah, sorry. Got some on your face there.
平気。ほら、続きはお口の中で。ね。はい。
Literally, they had a CG for her blowing us, and we didn't even ejaculate. Good God, they really love making Amane a slut in this route. See? It seems your presence is requested. Alright, I think we are Gucci. That should be the last sex scene. At least I hope so.
うわ、まずいな。ちょっとユージごめん。浴衣直すの手伝って。
Yeah, in comparison to Makina's sex scenes were long. She only had 2 sex scenes, but they were long. Probably about 40 minutes each. Amane's, they're not really that long, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes at most. So, I guess the length actually matters when it comes to just how substantial the scene is. If you insist. No, wait, there's a bigger problem here. Your face!
やっぱ、ザーメンだらけじゃん。
Here, I'll wipe it off. You focus on getting that yukata back on straight.
あんがと痛いってば鼻んとこグってしないでよ
Hideous.
怒るよマキナこっちこっちどうしたのは鼻ね痛いなにどうしたの私おトイレ行きたい
I mean, you're not a kid, Machina, the hell? You can go to the toilet anytime you want.
行ってくればそっかあんた浴衣だ帯崩さないようにできる
Okay, that makes sense.
無理かもわかったよ一緒に行ってあげるからごめんねいいわよ浴衣汚しちゃったら大変だしほら行こうじゃあユージ私たちちょっと
Right. I'll be waiting here.
すぐ戻るから
Is it just me, or does she seem more motherly by the day? Even grandmotherly? Well, I'm not sure if the old lady's side of Imani's personality is growing more pronounced, or if Machina's just reverting even further into childishness. Probably a little of column A and a little of column B? Of course, Amani's ongoing transformation into a domestic-minded grandma hasn't had any adverse effects on her sex drive. If anything, it's quite the opposite. She's been almost dangerously horny lately. I feel like we're starting to get into some risky territory here.
ねえちょっとあれって毒虫じゃない？ほらあの髪の長い子。どれ？どの子？ほら小さな子の手引いて歩いてる女いるじゃん。あまねって呼ばれてたし間違いないって。ほんとだあまねじゃん。メガネしてないから最初わからなかったよ。やだなんで毒虫がこんなとこにいるの？あいつの引っ越し先ってこっちだったっけ？
I was wondering where the story was gonna go after this, but I guess this is where the story is gonna go.
知らないよそんなの。っていうか気持ち悪いから思い出させないでよ。吐きそうになるよ。
Cockroach. Apparently oblivious to my presence, the girls in front of me point furtively in Amani's direction, grimacing in what looks like revulsion.
どうする？声かけてみようか。いいよ気持ち悪い。見なかったことにしてもう行こうよ。じゃあ写メだけでも。やめなって。ほらもう行こう。私あの事件まだトラウマなんだから。わかったわよ。そんな押さないでよ。
A nightmare. Cockroach. What's that supposed to mean? Are those two acquaintances of Imani's? I'm tempted to call out to them before they can hurry away, but this doesn't exactly seem like a topic they'd be happy to casually discuss with a stranger. What do I do? As I hesitate, the pair of girls walk quickly off toward the opposite side of the festival. In what seems to be a deliberate attempt to avoid any possible encounter with Amane, they quickly vanish into the crowd. Cockroach, is it? Gokiburi, right? I think that's what cockroach is in Japanese. Doesn't exactly have a pleasant ring to it. Most likely that nickname has something to do with Amani's past. The reason why she transferred to this school. Come to think of it, to this point, I haven't really concerned myself too deeply with any of that. Probably because the Amani I know tries so hard to be a cheerful, strong woman, and is usually very convincing at it. Probably because of my own complacency. Why take the risk of prying? Things seem alright the way they are. Just as Amani doesn't want to know about my job, perhaps there's a part of me that doesn't want to know about her past. Maybe I've been unconsciously avoiding the topic. But, is that really the way it should be? Now you ask this, Yuji. I mean, then again, it only has been, what, a couple of months. If I take Sakaki's word for it, Amane will eventually tell me the truth on her own initiative, and prolonged silence will hurt her more than me. Does that mean I should just wait patiently? Let Amane approach me in her own time, if ever? Or should I come out and ask, to help nudge Amane toward finally getting it off her chest? I don't know for sure, But I do think this isn't something I should decide all by myself. It's not just my problem after all. The reasonable thing would be to honestly discuss the matter in the spirit of a bilateral relationship.
お待たせ、ごめんね。
Not a problem.
なんか難しい顔してんのよさ。待たせすぎたか？ごめんね。なんかマキナ、ジョンジョロジョンジョロっていつまでも止まらないもんでさ。ひどいのよ、アマネだって一緒におしっこしてたのよさ。むしろアマネの方が長かったぐらいなのよ。あんた、そういうこと大声で言わないの。
Amane, let me ask you something.
何？急に改まって。
There's something I want to discuss with you later. Can you spare some time tonight?
何？今じゃダメなの？
If possible, I'd like to be alone. It's kind of important.
分かった。何？アマネ、なんか悪いことしたの？怒られるの？そんなことないと思うけど。やっぱあれじゃね？ピッチすぎて怒られんじゃね？おめえちっと自重しろ的な感じで。そうなの？
No, not even close.
何よ、すっごい気になるよ。今言ってよ。
No rush, we've still got a festival to enjoy. Let's live in the moment, like the dissolute modern youths we are.
楽しもうぜ。うわー、私意外とそういうの気にするタイプだからな。大変です、皆さん。
Hmm? What's wrong, Sachi?
ミチル様が、ミチル様が、なんて説明すれば。
Okay, you don't have to use English, Sachi. Good to see you've been working on your English vocabulary, but it's not helping right now. Calm down and explain what happened in chronological order.
はい、ミチル様が調子に乗って櫓の上で太鼓を叩いていたのですが、そこへ巨大なカブトムシが飛来しまして、ものすごい勢いで側頭部に突き刺さりました。
What? And then?
ミチル様はアホアと規制を上げられて、刺さったカブトムシを引き抜こうと身もだえるうちに櫓から転落。高校と抱かれていたかがり火の上にドサッと落下しまして。
She okay? She fell into fire, and then?
はい、それでウホースと叫んだミチル様はカチカチ山のタヌキのごとく背中から煙を上げつつ、そばで営業していたカメ釣りの露店の水槽へダイブ。今カメ釣り露店の店主にほっぴどく叱られております。
I don't think that's her fault, actually. Understood. How bad are Michiru's injuries?
ほぼ無傷です。
チルチルってば嫌になるぐらい頑丈な女なのよさ。
Fortuitous? Fortuitous? Is that how you say that? That she wasn't injured. Either way, I suppose we're obligated to back her up here. I'll go apologize as well.
正直めんどくせえのよさ。
Classmates have a responsibility to cover for each other's blunders. If she broke something, we'll have to repair it for them. I'll go as our representative.
待ってよ、私も行くから。
仕方ねえな。私も行くのよさ。まったくチルチルはどこ行ってもトラブルを起こす女なのよさ。
でも大好きなんだよね、ミチル様のこと。
バカな子ほど可愛いって言うしな。ほら行くよさっち。
Since his business had been disrupted just as the festival crowd was beginning to bustle in earnest. His business? What the? I'd been prepared for the storekeeper, okay. For the storekeeper to be pretty indignant. But when we arrive at the stall, my expectations are turned on their head.
はいはい、カメだよカメだよ、カメ釣りだよ。かわいいかわいいカメだよ。飼ってよし食ってよししごいてよし。カメ最高。はい寄ってって見てて。
Apparently having negotiated a settlement with the turtle stand's owner, Michiru is standing in front of the stall, energetically barking for customers. Can't say I've ever seen such vigorous turtle salesmanship before.
っていうか緑ガメって食べていいの？
I don't know. I've never eaten turtles, I think.
まあ亀だし食べられないことはないだろうけど、っていうかしごくって？
あ、そこを気になっちゃいました。さすがは天音さんです。
私今ビッチ扱いされてるのかな？
何をおっしゃいますやら。
Anyway, I think Michiru is going to find her way through life, even without our help. Through sheer resilience, if nothing else. And so, after a lengthy evening of utter nonsense and pleasant memories, the hour hand of the clock hit 9. As the brilliant lights of the festival began to dim, we returned together to the dorm. Incidentally, a minor digression. Sachi looked into the matter and discovered that the Mississippi red-eared turtle, popularly known as the green turtle, is perfectly edible if properly processed beforehand. But of course, none of us would put this to the test.
それで私に何か話があるって何？
Actual serious music in an amane scene? What the? Right, about that. Okay. Let me think about how I want to say this.
何よ、難しい話なの？
Yeah, pretty damn awkward.
あんたの仕事の話？それなら私は別に。
No, it's not my job. It's about you, Amane.
私の？何？
Amane, let me ask you something. And please, hear me out before you take offense. Does the nickname Cockroach mean anything to you?
虫。
Dokumushi. Okay, that's not what I thought. I thought it was Gokiburi. Right, ring any bells?
誰に聞いたの？
At the festival today, I happened to overhear two girls talking. Got the idea they were probably old acquaintances of yours.
そう。
Dokumushi is like, I guess, it doesn't necessarily mean cockroach, I think, but maybe it is. Doku. What is doku anyway? Mushi is bug, but I don't know what doku is. Am I right to think that the word has something to do with your past? Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm not going to drag anything out of you. It's just, I don't know. If your memories are still causing you some worry or pain, I'd want to do anything I can to help. That's all. Of course, your past is your own business. If you tell me to leave it alone and never bring it up again, I'll accept that and abide by it. You did the same for me after all. But if, by some chance, you need to get something off your chest, I'll listen. I'll help you any way I can. What I can do for you probably doesn't amount to much, granted, but I don't have anything else to offer. Tell me, Amane, what should I do? Should I pretend I didn't hear anything and forget about this? Or can I help you in some way? I can't figure this out alone. Amane.
そっか。そっか。知られちゃったか。じゃあ仕方がないよね。
Amane?
私立滝園学園1年 A 組バスケ部所属風見和樹。もちろん知ってるよね。6年前の8月14日、バスケットボール部の夏合宿の帰り道、彼女を含む14人を乗せたマイクロバスは忽然と姿を消した。世に言う滝園学園マイクロバス転落事故。私はその14人の中の唯一の生き残りよ。
Are you serious?
こんなことで嘘は言わないよ。
My elder sister, Kazami Kazuki, when she disappeared, it destroyed my family. And the one girl who lived through that disaster was Amane? That's your past?
そう。私はユージのお姉さんと同級生だった。
Why? Why didn't you...
ごめん、言えなかったんだよ。 ユージが転入してきた時、風見ユージって名前を聞いた時、すぐに気がついたんだけど言えなかった。
Well, of course she couldn't. I'm the family Kazuki left behind. It must have been a complete bombshell. There's no way you'd be able to figure out a situation like that on the spur of the moment. I see. Yeah, makes sense.
6年前の事故はユージも知ってるよね。
Yeah, the general picture at least. 6 years ago, August 14, on the way back from a training camp, the Takizono Academy basketball team's school bus plunged off a cliff. An extensive search was abandoned in failure 14 days after the girls disappeared, but in the end, a single survivor managed to find her own way to safety. It was a widely reported incident at the time. It's hard to believe. That was Amane. That lone survivor was a major focus of media attention for some time after the fact. Speculation gave rise to rumors. Many outlets questioned the means by which that single girl had survived the cruel ordeal that claimed the lives of her classmates. In mass media, extreme and shocking news sells. The lone survivor was subjugated to vicious gossip on television and in print. They did stop short of publishing her name, probably out of legal concerns rather than ethical ones. Television shows exploited footage of the weeping families as a backdrop for lurid gossip about the deaths of their children. Tabloid magazines published vivid, unsourced descriptions of hellish conditions, using loaded questions and innuendo to suggest the girl had survived only by becoming something less than human. Among these, some articles even discussed the interpersonal dynamics of the doomed team, their relationships, and that lone survivor.
急な告白でびっくりしていると思うし、私が何を言ってもずる賢く生き残った女狐の言い訳にしか聞こえないと思う。ちょっと待ってもらえる？ユージに見せたいものがあるから。
What? Amane leaves my room and 10 long minutes crawl by before she returns. I spend every moment trying to piece together my scrambled thoughts. What the hell is this? When I arrived at Mahama, Amane had already been here for a good year. Of course, Principal Tachibana must have known everything. She knew about all this and didn't say a word? Just left me and Amane to sort it out for ourselves? I know she has that non-interference policy, but this feels more like negligence. And there's Sakaki too. She's looked into all of our backgrounds. She obviously knew the facts, and she didn't say a damn word? Hold on, calm down. Consider this from their perspective. What would I have done in their shoes? Yeah, I don't think I could have acted differently. It's too sensitive a problem. The two of us are the only ones who can resolve it. They weren't wrong to act as they did. And if I was in Amane's shoes, if a relative of the classmate who died while I lived transferred into my school, could I have told the truth in that moment straight out? I really don't think so. Had I been in Amane's position, I would have waited, slowly steeled my resolve, tried to find the right moment to confess the truth. That's right. I don't have the right to blame Amane. I would have made the same decision myself. And to tell the truth now, after everything that's happened between us, must have taken an incredible amount of courage on her part. She's downright admirable. Rather than thinking about whether I can blame her, maybe I should be taking a look at myself. Did I just shatter Amane's peace of mind out of nothing more than hypocritical curiosity? I personally think this is something people need to do to get past, or like I said, I think I said this in a previous episode, if you have something that you hide from other people, especially your close ones, I feel like it's not a relationship that can last long, you know? When you're hiding something, you're gonna hide something else to hide that something, right? But if you're open from the start, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be free, because you don't really have anything to hide. Personally, that's how I think.
ごめん、お待たせ。これ
Like, sure, it probably will mean that our relationship might not mend, right? Like, what can happen after we know about this situation is that Yuji and Amane will fall apart, or on the, yeah, oppositely, if they can try to recover from this, their relationship are going to grow deeper, right? Amane holds out a beaten up old notebook toward me. The date's written on the cover, a few months of that summer, 6 years ago. This is your...
あの日の日記帳だよ。そこに全てのことが書いてある。
Are you sure about this?
ユージにはそれを読む権利があると思うから。
Alright, I'll read it.
その日記帳の18ページ目からがあの遭難事故の直後に書かれた日記に該当するわ。
6 years ago, August 14th. I lower my gaze to the diary, its pages well worn from Amane's hands. She's clearly reread it many times. The contents of these pages left me staggered. "2005, huh? When I opened my eyes, I was in darkness. I couldn't see a thing. I blinked repeatedly and slowly counted to 10, but that didn't change. I couldn't even tell if my surroundings were really dark or if my eyes weren't working. In the blackness, so deep I couldn't see the palm of my hand in front of my face, I heard moaning voices from all around me. Painful, hacking coughs, screams of agony. My ears, at least, were functional. As I repeated quiet, calming breaths, the scent of gasoline tickled my nose, and with that stimulation, the haze of confusion lifted slightly. And I remembered that I was inside a bus. Groping around my surroundings, I vaguely realized that I was lying on top of something soft. When I tried to sit up, I hit my head sharply against a seat. I reached up to my eyes to check if my glasses had been knocked crooked, only to discover that they weren't on my face in the first place. I groped around the area frantically. Again, my hand found something strangely soft and warm. It was the heat of a living thing. Realizing with a start that I was touching another person, I reflexively jerked my hand back.
気がついた？はい。
At least it wasn't a corpse that you already, that you already touched.
動けるようなら私の上から降りてほしいのだけれど。ごめんなさい。
Finally understanding that someone was pinned under my body, I fumbled in search of a foothold. But the floor my feet were searching for wasn't there.
気をつけて。今はこのバス、天井が壁だから。天井が壁？そう。床も壁。そして今まで壁だったものが、今は床と天井。まあ、そうね。簡単に言えば横転しているのよ。
Could have said that from the start, you know?
横転。
As I repeated that word out loud in an attempt to process its meaning, further understanding of the situation flooded into my mind. This was the inside of a school bus. On the way back from our summer training camp, our bus had fallen off a cliff, with us still inside.
どうでもいいけれど、早く移動してくださらない？さっきからあなた、私の左腕を踏んでいるのだけれど。ごめんなさい。痛いわよ。不用意に動かないで。ごめんなさい。あなた、それ口癖？後で殴るときに呼び出すから名前を教えなさい。ごめんなさい。冗談よ。私は風見和樹。あなたは？スオです。スオあまね。ああ、スオさんね。名前と容姿は知っているけど、お話しするのは初めてね。はい、はじめまして。敬語はいいわ。私も同じ1年生だし。それと、できれば挨拶は後にして、さっさと私の上から降りてくださる？痛くて涙が出てきたわ。ごめんなさい。5回目。いい？ ごめんなさいって言葉は口にすればするほど言葉の価値が下がるのよ。次にごめんなさいって言ったら怒るわよ。
She's not wrong.
じゃないわよ。いいから左にどきなさい。出口はそっちよ。
ごめんなさい。舌打ちしないで謝るから。
I knew the name Kazami Kazuki. It was the name of the top incoming student. The girl who'd been chosen as our class representative to deliver the greeting speech at our entrance ceremony this spring. Kazuki sounded like a boy's name, and the girl herself appeared somewhat absent-minded, always walking around with a sleepy look on her face. And yet, there was something about her that suggested the cold sharpness of a blade. We belonged to the same basketball team, and participated in the training camp together. But I had shied away from the foreboding aura she projected, and in the end, we hadn't spoken as so much as once during the trip. The interior of the bus was scattered with debris, and every foothold was uncertain, but Kazami Kazuki quickly crawled her way through, dragged herself out the shattered window, and turned back to offer her hand to me.
ほら、手を出しなさい。私の手を取るのよ。
ありがとう。
どうやらなんとか助かったようね。はい、メガネ。あなたのでしょ？
ありがとう。
The moment I replaced the glasses on my head, I drew a harsh breath at the side of the bus we had been riding in. The roof was smashed, the windows all broken. The vehicle was completely overturned, its belly exposed. White smoke was pouring from the area of the still active engine. Man, I wonder what's wrong with me and like buses. If people don't know, it's actually quite a spoiler in Little Busters. But at this point, it's been so long, right, since that game actually came out. I think that game came out in 2009. Very good read. I would highly recommend that visual novel. I don't know if I would rank it highly or rank it higher than Grisaia, but I do think it was really good. Though I don't know if I will still the same way if I reread it. Then again, I reread it in 2017 and really enjoyed it. As that fear ran through my mind, Kazami Kazuki glanced briefly at my face with her usual sleepy expression, then snorted lightly.
大丈夫よ。こういった事故で車が爆発するのは映画の中だけだから安心しなさい。
どうして私が考えていることが分かったの？
煙を上げるエンジンを見ながら泣きそうな顔しているあなたを見れば子供にでもわかるわ。で、誰から助けましょうか？爆発しないと分かったあなたは次に早くみんなを助けましょうって言い出すと思ったのだけれど、違った？そんなエスパーでも見るような目で私を見ないでよ。私は手早くことを進めたいだけなんだから。で、誰から助けるの？あなたに決めさせてあげる。1、先生。2、あなたの親友。3、怪我人。あなたなら誰から助ける？
I would probably choose number 2.
どうして私に決めさせるの？
簡単な心理テストのようなものよ。あなたが誰から助けるかで、あなたがどんな女の子なのかわかると思って。
I think Kazuki, like, I think this isn't really something that you should be telling the answer to, Kazuki. Right?
風見さんだったら誰から助けるの？
質問に質問を返すのはバカだと思われるからやめなさい。それと、そうやって回答を保留にするのも回答とみなすわよ。
She's very snarky though, but I don't know. I personally don't really what am I trying to say? Like I feel like she's kind of making Amane, she's kind of like manipulating Amane in some way.
状況判断能力と決断力のない子だと思われてしまうけれど、それで構わない？まあいいわ。それじゃあ私が決める。まずは部長から助けましょう。
どうして部長から？
私、あの子が嫌いなのよ。さっきの質問の答えだけど、私は1でも2でも3でもなく4の嫌いな子から助けるわ。
I definitely would not choose that.
4ってずるくない？
Not really, technically.
回答の数を3つに限定した覚えはないけれど、3つの中に正解がなかった時にどう答えるかもテストに含まれているのよ。
意地悪クイズみたい。それにどうして嫌いな子から助けるの？
It's not a trick question though, Mane, because technically speaking, there are no right or wrong answers in that question.
だって12人もいるのよ。嫌いな子が最後に残ったら絶対に面倒くさいって思うに決まっているじゃない。
Well, in my head, I don't think I would actually help all 12 people, but then again, I'm not exactly a kind person.
それが理由？
そう。嫌なことはさっさと終わらせたいのよ。私って夏休みの宿題を夏休みに入る前に済ませてしまうぐらいせっかちなの。
How many people actually do that, man?
わかるような、わからないような。
わからなくてもいいから、あなたもこっちに来て手伝いなさいな。
ごめんなさい。
To be honest, I found it very difficult to understand her thoughts. But I did understand that the word genius was probably created to describe this sort of person. Not really. I don't know. Maybe then again, I never really met myself a genius before. Maybe someone who's kinda awkward but intelligent, but not necessarily a genius. There were 14 people riding on that bus, including the team's advisor. Eventually, 11 people emerged from its wreckage, together with one small dog that belonged to a team member. The remaining 3 were dead. 2 were killed instantly when the bus fell. The other, still conscious immediately after the accident, rolled herself into a ball and moaned for 10 minutes before she died. Among the 11 survivors, 4 were wounded. 1 had broken both her legs. 1 had struck her head and suffered a laceration. 1 had received a gash to her abdomen from a sharp object. And the man who should have been our guardian, the teacher who had been our team's advisor, was unconscious and showed no signs of waking. That, more than anything else, filled our hearts with gloom. None of us could get our minds around the situation we were in. Clutching our knees to our chests, we sat on the ground in a daze.
まずは怪我人の手当てをするべきだと私は思うけど、どうかしら。
But that heavy silence was soon broken. Kazami Kazuki spoke in a perfectly normal tone of voice. When I raised my head in response to her clear, firm words, I saw that she was addressing our group's official leader, the team captain.
こんな状況だからこそ、しっかりしてください、先輩。
そうね。言われなくても分かってはいるのだけれど、こんな状況で私たちに何ができるというの？
反論しても？
どうぞ。
ただ待っていても助けが来る保証なんてどこにもないわ。あなたにこの場を仕切る能力がないのであれば、私が代わりますけど。どうしますか？
Yeah, I think she's a bit way too mean, man.
勝手なことを言わないで。もしあなたの判断ミスで現状が悪化したら、誰が責任を取ると思ってるの？
I mean, if she were to assume responsibility, of course she's the one that's gonna take the blame. Wait, are you saying that you're gonna take the blame? Because you're technically the captain, and by giving her free reign, you're gonna be the one that's going to be reprimanded?
この後に及んでも責任の所在を気にする余裕はあるのね。
Exactly, what the... Wow, this girl is way too prideful for her own good.
はあ？なんですって？よく聞こえないんだけど。
いいえ、別に何も。では、この場はお任せしても。
I feel like Kazuki is way too into this though. If I were in her shoes, I personally wouldn't be antagonizing people. I would just lay low. But then again, it could just be her personality, and people's personality are all different.
余計なお気遣いは結構よ。 リツ、こっちにいらっしゃい。
あ、はい。なんでしょう。
あなた、ご実家はお医者様よね。
はい、そうですけど。
だったら応急処置ぐらいできるでしょ。すぐに取り掛かって。
そんな無理ですよ。いくら実家が医者だからって私にはそんな知識は。
それでも何も知らない素人よりはマシでしょ。ごちゃごちゃ言わないでやりなさい。
Okay. She assumes responsibility and then suddenly put that responsibility into someone else. Ritsu wrung her hands in front of her chest. I completely understood her feelings. Taking on the role of doctor simply because of her parents' occupation? The responsibility was far too grave. It wasn't as though she had inherited their medical skills, and superficial knowledge wouldn't be enough in the situation. The team captain, Sakashita Chiaki, and Koide Ritsu, a girl who had always played the role of her devoted underling. As a mere first year, I didn't know much about their relationship, but the fact was that I'd never seen Ritsu disobey an order from the captain.
リツ、同じことを何度も言わせないで。
はい。じゃあ、まずは広岡さんから。
何を言っているのよ。まずは先生からよ。
でも広岡さんは両足を骨折して重傷ですし。
いいから先に先生を見なさい。
はい。
Kazuki watched with the disdainful eyes of a spectator to an ugly farce as Ritsu swallowed her complaints. As our doctor walked away with sagging shoulders, Kazuki approached Sakashita for the second time.
坂下部長、私に周囲の探索をする許可をいただけますか？
一人で勝手なことをしないで。どうしてあなたはいつもそうやって集団の輪を乱そうとするの？
Not like you actually gave us command to do anything right now.
スオさん、付き合っていただける？
ちょっと風見さ
ん、私一人でなければよいのでしょ？これでも私は気を利かせているのよ。あなたは私がそばにいない方が威張り散らしやすいでしょうし。それじゃ行くわよ、スオさん。
As I chased after Kazami Kazuki, I saw the captain's expression out of the corner of my eye. She was glaring at me, making no attempt to hide her displeasure. Her eyes asked, "Are you taking that woman's side?" In response, I offered a quick bow of my head. I didn't understand myself whether that gesture was an apology for siding with Kazuki, or a silent attempt to convey, "I haven't betrayed you." Either way, some instinct inside me had judged that following Kazami Kazuki was the correct decision. Although I had seen Kazuki for the first time at that entrance ceremony, I had known her name for much longer. When we were grade schoolers, it was well known that an 8-year-old child had taken a special prize at the district painting contest. As the painting had been exhibited among other children's work, that was her only award, but it might well have taken the overall prize otherwise. Our class took a trip to see her piece on display at the district assembly hall. Even with my immature eye for art, I could sense something inexpressible in words from that painting, something that nonetheless moved my heart. And my impression of that work, and the name of the genius who painted it, were deeply etched into my mind. Kazami Kazuki. She wasn't blessed with talent as a painter alone. She could do anything she tried, anything at all. Well, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but on her first attempt, she could usually produce adequate results. If it was a field she found particularly difficult, it might take 3 days of effort for her to reach average skill. Those were the rumors anyway. According to those who knew her, she lives in a different world. Or, I can't believe that she's a human being. Or, she can see things normal people can't. At the time, I was astonished that anyone could inspire such stories, many of which were so overblown that they took on a tinge of the occult. But when we entered the same school in the same year, even joining the same team, the girl appeared perfectly normal, if a little standoffish. Even so, I could vaguely sense that her true nature was somehow different, from that of an ordinary person. To be honest, I had avoided her as a result. Sometimes I guess I kinda get what Amane is trying to sense here. Like, there would be some people with some personalities that I would instinctively avoid for some reason. I don't know why. Nowadays, I don't really follow that instinct anymore, unless the person is actually someone that I am not very good with, you know, that I can't deal with them, or maybe we just don't see eye to eye. I don't really believe in this so-called instinct anymore. But I don't know. When I was younger, for sure, I had that sort of gut in my feeling about some people. And now I was alone with her for the first time under these circumstances. Although I followed as instructed, I couldn't find anything to say to her, and she was equally silent. The two of us just trudged on, not exchanging a single word. The ground at our feet was rugged and hard, and rock walls loomed on both sides. When I looked straight up, there was nothing but trees and sky. We seemed to have fallen into some sort of fissure, a crack in the earth. The walls were maybe 10 meters tall at their lowest point. Not so high as to rule out climbing, but on both sides, the rock face slanted inward as they rose up, hanging over us. With this pronounced of an overhang, climbing with bare hands seemed impossible, and even with tools it would likely be difficult. Apparently, Azaikyousuke had been thinking along the same lines. She came to a stop a little ways ahead of me, placed her hand on one of the slanting walls of rock, and began to strike it with a stone she had picked off the ground.
それで何かわかるの？やっと口を開いたかと思えば、随分とどうでもいいようなことを口にするのね。他にもっと聞きたいことがあったのではなくて？他にって…そうね。どうやって登るの？とか、元の道には戻れない？とか、これからどうするの？とか、いろいろあるけど、一番聞きたいのは多分、どうして私に声をかけたの？じゃないかしら？踊り…
Yeah, Kazuki has quite the bad personality, if I do say so myself. By telling people what their thoughts are, I think that will draw more enemies than actually make friends, you know?
だったらはっきりと答えてあげる。それはあなたが強く言われると断れないタイプだからよ。あなたの場合、一緒に来てくれない？とお願いされたら悩むけど、来いと命令されたら悩まずに従うでしょ？どうしてそう思うの？さっきの心理テストの結果からそう思ったのだけれど、違った？
Yes, she was probably right. When my mother asked me what should we have for our snack today, I would answer, "What do you want, mommy?" When she simply told me we're having cakes today, I was relieved because I wouldn't have to choose. Given multiple choices, I would have wavered indecisively, and when given a single path, I would follow it obediently. That was just my personality.
余計なことを喋ると今度は何を読み取られるか分かったもんじゃないって顔してるわよ。私としてはあまり警戒しないでほしいのだけれど。
As she spoke, Azaikyousuke removed her cell phone from her pocket and looked into the screen.
あ、やっぱり県外ね。あなたのはどう？
Convenient. I don't think it's actually that easy for you to not have signal. And it's not like people only use one type of, you know, mobile plan, right? Or mobile, what do you call it? Like SIM card, right? Some people would be using different, what do you call them? Not ISPs. ISPs are for internet. I don't actually know the name in English. But yeah, the SIM cards that you use, they're not just by one company. It's very difficult for every company to have zero signal, I think. I hurriedly pulled my phone out of my school uniform, but as expected, its screen was also displaying the words "no signal." But then again, this was an older story. And you know, like, it's not as mainstream back in the day, like internet. Or technically mobile data was super mainstream, and in Japan, I don't think there's any place that doesn't get any coverage. This is fiction
ダ
though.
メみたい。私のも県外。でしょうね。
Kazuki turned off her phone immediately and slid it back into her pocket.
あなたも電源を切っておいた方がいいわよ。電波状況が良くないままだとびっくりするぐらいバッテリーの消耗が激しいから。
That's actually quite true. Even now. It wasn't as discouraging as I would have expected to find our cell phones were useless. To tell the truth, I had checked mine soon after escaping the bus. Of course, the screen had also displayed no signal then. Finding that was still the case prompted little more than a feeling of resignation. Well, expected as much. We were within a long tunnel-like crevice. Maybe if we just kept following it, partially because of wishful thinking like that, I wasn't in a state of despair at our situation. Another factor was the strange sense of security that came from being near this girl named Azaikyousuke, as though I'd found firm, reliable ground to stand on. If I'm with this girl, it'll work out somehow. Her strangely powerful presence let me think such irresponsible thoughts somewhere deep down.
状況はあまり芳しくないわね。
There was a heavily overgrown jungle visible in the direction Kazuki was pointing. It was a dense forest, seemingly devoid of animal life, that seemed to actively refuse human entry. The thick wall of vibrant green almost seemed pleasant at a glance, and yet it was obvious that a single step inside would find you in an environment far too harsh to support human life. Even if you were to advance by hacking through the thick grasses and bushes rising over your head, the distance you could advance in one day would be pretty limited. And in avoiding the tall trees that grew close enough together as to block out the light of day, you'd quickly lose any grasp of your own position anyway.
運が良ければ人の立ち入った痕跡のようなものを発見できるかと思ったのだけれど、これは期待するだけ無駄だったようね。
If there's even one path a human traveled, follow it and you'll find a place where humans live. But the jungle in front of us showed no signs of such intrusion. Even so, I had some hope that we might stand a chance by pushing our way boldly through the woods. But that thought was shattered by what Kazuki told me next.
これを見てごらんなさい。
She held out a compass we had used at the training camp for orienteering, one of our recreational activities. The needle that should have always sought north was pointing to the northwest, and when she turned to face a different direction, it didn't move within the compass.
どういうこと？まあ簡単に言ってしまえば、針が動いていない、方位自身として機能していないということよ。そんな、どうして？
Something to do with the magnets, I assume?
おそらくはデビエーションね。周りの壁を見てごらんなさい。壁？
As I looked up in confusion at the rock face looming above us, she picked up a stone lying at her feet and again struck the wall sharply. The sound it produced was a high-pitched clinking, like what you might expect from a hard metal surface.
岩壁の一部がガラス化しているわ。おそらく瞬間的な高温にさらされた状態から急激に冷やされてアモルファス化したのね。ごめん、専門的すぎて意味がわからない。火山の溶岩が冷えても似たような状況になるけど、あまりにも広範囲だし、かといってエアバーストにしては規模が小さすぎるし、多分隕石かな。
Really? Quite the coincidence.
隕石？隕石ってあの隕石？マイクロブラックホールが激突したって可能性はまずないでしょうし、おそらく小規模な隕石が地表に到達する前に爆発して、その飛散した破片の中でも大きめのものがこの周辺に落ちたんじゃないかしら。方位磁石が機能しないのもそれが原因？多分ね。飛散した破片に重鉱物が含まれていて、マスコンセントレーション的なスポットをいくつも発生させているんじゃないかしら。そう考えると
この不自然な環境にも納得がいくのよね。あなたはどう思う？
Maybe.
どうって言われても。
First thought would have been just an earthquake, really. If Kazami Kazuki thought so, it was probably the truth. At the very least, I wasn't about to come up with any other possibilities.
さてさて、周囲は草も生えない岩場。周りを囲む壁は構造的に這い上がるのは不可能。進める先は人を拒絶するような密林。携帯も通じないし、方位磁石すら機能しない。申し分のない遭難ね。面白くなってきたわ。
面白くなってきたって。
不謹慎に聞こえたのなら謝るわ。でも私の言葉から余裕が感じられた方があなたも余計な不安を感じないで済むかと思って。
お気遣いは感謝するけど、他の子の前ではそういう言い回しは避けた方がいいと思う。
I also agree with you, Amane. For once, maybe past Amane was actually someone more reasonable than the slut you are, not right now.
そうね。
Although she nodded, I didn't feel that she was convinced by my words. Precisely because we were in such a bad situation, a confident leader who could pull off this sort of all-knowing god act would be ideal. But she wasn't the leader of our group. By rank, our teacher was first, the team captain Sakishita was second, and vice captain Okabe was third. Or should have been. But unfortunately, Okabe's senpai had died when the bus fell. Still, a first year like Kazuki had very little say in the team's decisions.
坂下部長、私に命令権を譲ってくれないかしら。その方がいちいち愚信をする手間が省略できて効率がいいと思うのだけれど。
You know, the fact that she's actually thinking about giving reports to the captain is kind of admirable. If I were in her shoes with probably the amount of, you know, intelligence and I guess composure that she has, I personally wouldn't be thinking about going to survive this with the whole group. Considering there's already 3 people that are dead, or was it 3 people or 2 people? I think there were 3 dead and then 5 wounded, right? I like the odds of going out with everyone intact is already so little. I wouldn't even consider the wounded to be part of the group. But then again, I am a very callous person. Or is that what you call it? Callous? Jaded? I don't know.
ねえ、聞いてもいい？
何かしら？
その坂下部長のことなんだけど、
聞きにくいようなこと？
そうじゃなくて、もしかして私が今から何を聞こうとしているか想像がついてる？
Amane, the fact that you have to ask that sort of question, like, people are not psychic, Amane. They can infer what you're trying to ask sometimes, but you're not really making any sort of comprehensible thoughts right now. What the hell? She's not a psychic.
は？何？突然。あなた、私のことを神様か何かだと勘違いしてない？
ほら、さっき私に心理テストをしたでしょ？
ああ、その話？つまり坂下部長が先生を一番最初に見なさいと言い出したから、心理テスト的にそれがどんな結果になったのか気になるのね。
そう。
I don't know how the hell you actually were able to tell what she was trying to ask, Kazuki. Holy shit.
言われなくてもあなたにもなんとなく分かっているでしょ。坂下部長は他者依存の強いタイプよ。いつも自分が中心にいないと気が済まないくせに、自分に責任がかかるような決断を迫られた時にはすぐに背後を振り返って助けを求める人。
In my opinion, people who are like that do not deserve to actually be in a position of power. But who am I but just a lonely single individual who can't really do anything.
つまりここは私が指揮を取ります。それでよろしいですね先生って言いたいから、まずは先生。わかる？
なるほど。
別にそれが悪いとは言わないわよ。学生なんだし、むしろそれが当たり前よね。でも彼女の場合、おそらく学校から出てもあの調子なんでしょうね。家では父親を背後に立たせているんじゃないかしら。そういう子供っぽい優越がすごく鼻につくわ。
It also disgusts me, actually, Kazuki. But, I personally just wouldn't... What is it? Wouldn't interact with someone like that. You know? I don't understand why she even became a member of the basketball club, considering, you know, the captain is someone like this.
ごめんなさい。くだらない話を聞かせてしまったわね。
As Kazami Kazuki apologized for babbling, her expression was a cheerful one, appropriate for her age. But that bright smile was frightening under the circumstances. I felt sure of it. This person was attached to nothing. She grabbed hold of anything she thought she needed, and she cast aside anything that outlived its necessity. Maybe that was just another part of being a genius. As these thoughts ran through my head, Kazuki suddenly turned her back to me and mumbled a few words.
そうでもないわよ。
At that brief sentence, I felt a chill like cold fingers running down my spine.
何が？
そろそろ戻りましょう。私たちだけで逃げ出したと思われても心外だし。
See, the thing is, Amane, more than not, people's thoughts are actually plastered on their face, and it's kind of easy to tell what's on Amane's face right now, to be honest. Especially when she's downcast like that. If you compare the human brain to an engine, Kazuki's must have been operating at a far higher RPM than ours. RPM? Rotations per minute? I thought that engines was supposed to be on horsepower. I don't know, maybe it is actually RPM. I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to engines. She was constantly maintaining a speed of rotation that would quickly cause a normal person to overheat. I looked down at Kazuki's feet as she walked a few paces ahead of me. She was wearing the standard white sneakers specified by our school. Since the girl cast a shadow and didn't appear to be floating, apparently she wasn't a ghost or other supernatural apparition. Amane is weird, man.
何がおかしいの？
ごめんなさい。あなたが今何を考えているのか想像したらおかしくって。
でしょうね。
気を悪くしないでね。一応言っておくけど、私は幽霊じゃないし、あなたの夢に出てきた神様でもないわよ。
ああ、その発想はなかったわ。
ん？どの発想？
あなたがお化けじゃないかとは思ったけど、逆に私が死にかけていて都合のいい夢を見ているとは考えもしなかった。
私が言わなくても10分後には考えていたはずよ。
変な子。
そうね。1歳半の頃、母親にもそう言われたわ。
Most people wouldn't even remember what the hell they were doing in 1.5 years old. My memory, or my earliest memories, are probably when I was still in kindergarten. That was when I was like 4 years old, or maybe 5. I don't know anything during 0 to 4.
覚えてるの？
冗談よ。
どこからが？
どこからでも。お好きなところからどうぞ。
I was actually understanding her less the longer we talked. The one thing I did understand was that Kazami Kazuki's jokes aren't funny in the slightest. Only a couple hours passed.
一言で言えば絶望的な環境ね。
Having returned to the site of the accident, Kazuki and I explained the situation to Captain Sakashita, showing her the compass and its non-functional needle. She didn't stir from the rock she had been sitting on. When we finished our story, she sighed deeply, leaned forward to take her head in her hands and answered with a brief I understand.
それで怪我人の方は
The captain's only response was to sluggishly raise one hand and point. In the direction she indicated, Koide Ritsu was examining the wounded while trying to hold back her tears.
どうなの小出さん。
先生には大きな外傷もないし、軽い脳震盪だと思うから、しばらく横になっていれば意識が回復すると思う。広岡さんは左のすねと右の膝を骨折してる。飛び出してはいないけど、両方とも完全骨折。意識はしっかりしてるけど、だいぶ苦しんでるわ。桜井さんは腹部裂傷。事故の拍子で何か尖ったもの。傷跡から想像すると多分割れた瓶だと思うけど、お腹に突き刺さったみたい。金田さんは頭部裂傷。右目の上あたりの額を切ってる。多分何かにぶつけたんだと思う。もう出血は止まってるわ。
それで
それって
本当に見ただけ？治療はしていないの？
無理を言わないで。道具も何もないのに。道具があったところで私には無理よ。
折れていたら位置を合わせて固定するだけ。避けていたら縫い合わせるだけじゃない。
そんなのやったこともないのに無理よ。簡単だって言うならあなたがやってよ。
I think it is a bit more difficult than what she seems to be saying, though. Not to mention bacteria and all that getting into the wound. If you were to just suddenly use any random needle lying around with some random thread.
じゃあお湯を沸かしてくださる？キャンプの道具の中にガスコンロがあったでしょ。たくさんお湯を沸かして生食を作ってください。ついでに救急箱と釣り道具も発掘してきてくださるとありがたいですね。
Well, at the very least, she's able to back up what she's saying.
はい、わかりました。
風見さん、骨折の治療とか経験があるの？
ないわ。本で読んだ知識があるだけ。あなたは？
ない。
まあ普通はないわよね。
大丈夫なの？
経験や自信のある人がいるなら変わるわよ。私だって後から来て人の仕事を奪った出しゃばりな女だと思われたら心外だもの。
Kazuki turned around quickly to face the depressed group of girls, raised her right hand and asked, "Does anyone have medical experience?" No one raised their hand in response. No one even met Kazuki's eyes.
誰も経験がないのなら誰がやっても同じじゃない？それともこのまま怪我は自己責任ってことで放っておく？
My brain would actually follow along those lines, yes, actually, Kazuki.
それはさすがに。
私ね、できることはあったのにっていう後悔が一番悔しいと思うの。そんなわけだから一人ずつ見ていきましょうか。
I can't
ま
deny
ずは頭部裂傷の金田さんから。
I can't deny those regrets, though. That's actually very true.
金田さんが嫌いだから？
ああ、金田さんが一番軽傷だからよ。軽傷の子を見ている間に重傷の子が死ねば無駄な診察をしないで済むでしょ。
True enough.
嫌だわ。なぜ黙るの？冗談を言ったのだから笑ってくれないと恥ずかしいじゃない。
笑えないし。ねえ、あなた友達っているの？
そうね。今のところあなただけかしら。だからなぜ黙るの？
笑えばいいの？
そうね。そしたら私は泣くわ。
ごめん、会話の速度についていけない。
Following Kazuki's instructions, everyone with the physical energy and willpower to move cooperated to retrieve the first aid kit, camping equipment, and fishing tackle from the overturned bus. Kazuki gathered the tools she thought would be useful, passed them to Koide Ritsu to be disinfected, and began examining the wounded while waiting for the water to come to a boil. As promised, she looked at Kaneda's saya and her head laceration first.
どう？耳はちゃんと聞こえていますか？右と左で聞こえ方が違うとかは？
大丈夫みたい。
そう。じゃあ手を出して。まずは右手。
Oh, sorry. Kaneda's wound had already been disinfected, suttered shut, and covered with a roll of bandage. When Kazuki said she planned to use a fishing hook to stitch up the cut, I couldn't help raising doubts about whether such a procedure could be hygienic, but when she responded, well, I suppose we could try sticking it together with super glue. I'm sure that would make for a much prettier result. I decided I should probably keep my mouth shut. After that, I did nothing but silently record Kazuki's words in the memo pad we were using as a makeshift medical record.
どう？痛い？
Kazuki took a firm grip on Kaneda's right hand and dug her nails firmly into her index finger.
痛いってば。
あ、ごめんなさい。それじゃあ左手は？同じように痛みを感じる？
だから痛いってば。
It almost seemed like Kazuki was enjoying watching Kaneda squirm in pain. A question leaked out of my mouth.
ねえ、さっきから何をしているの？
彼女、頭を打ったみたいだから、感覚器官や神経で左右に差異がないか調べているのよ。傷口を縫っている時に気がついたのだけれど、彼女、左目がわずかに内斜視なのよ。右目と左目で見えている範囲も違うの。
え、気がつかなかった。
I hurriedly add the word esotropic to the record in a notebook.
あなた、お名前なんておっしゃったかしら？
金田サーヤ。
ああ、そうそう。金田サーヤ。サーヤさんね。いい名前だわ。
Is that actually her name? I mean, I know she said she's Kaneda, but is it actually Kaneda Saya? Or did she add an extra A there?
そう思う？
ええ。もし私が犬を飼っていたら、そう名付けたいぐらいよ。
Okay, maybe not.
犬。
ごめんなさい。この人、冗談がきついから。
あら、どうしてあなたが謝るの？
それは、私があなたのお友達だからよ。
あら、嬉しい。私、親友って初めてよ。
I didn't remember adding best to that phrase, but leaving that unsaid was probably the smart move here. Well, I'd learned that much, so I must have been growing used to her. I guess the word friend I had spoken just now wasn't entirely sarcastic.
今すぐあなたを抱きしめてキスをしたいところだけれど、今は金田さんの診察中だから、後でね。
ごゆっくりどうぞ。
どこまで見たかしら？ああ、そうそう。金田さん、あなた子供の頃に虐待を受けたことは？
ないわ。
母親に床に落とされたことも？
ない。
父親や男兄弟に性的な嫌がらせをされたことも？
Why these sudden questions? And they're kinda random?
ないわよ。
だったらシャシは今回の事故が原因ね。大丈夫、治るらしいから。はい、次の方。
Okay, I guess she's just trying to determine the haziness or laziness in the left eye. Kazuki continued her examinations along these lines, eventually working her way through all of the girls, even those with no apparent injury.
今の子で最後ね。軽い打ち身で内出血してる子もいたけど、ほとんどが軽傷ね。
一番の重傷はやっぱり広岡さんね。左肩への脛骨と腓骨が切損、右足は大腿骨の遠位骨が複合骨折。両方とも閉鎖骨折だから細菌感染の心配はないし、一応骨は固定してみたけど、病院に連れて行かないとダメね。
あとは桜井さんのお腹も。
ああ、傷口が大きいから重傷に見えるけど、内臓には届いていないし、縫合は済ませたから大丈夫よ。ただ感染症が心配ね。できれば病院で抗生物質を投与した方がいいわ。 とりあえずやれるだけのことはやったと部長に報告しておいて。
私が報告するの？
当たり前でしょ。そのためにあなたをお医者さんごっこに付き合わせたのだから。同じ言葉で状況を説明しても誰の口から出たかで印象は変わるでしょ。きっと私の報告なんか信じないわよ、あの部長。
Well, the last thing we needed was Kazuki's harsh tongue setting off a fight.
部長には先生には部長から説明してくださいって言っておいて。その程度の手柄は与えておかないとすねられても面倒なだけだし。
またそうやって余計なことを言う。
これでも随分と遠慮しているつもりなのだけれど。
風見さん、
At that moment, I realized something for the first time. Kazuki's face was flushed red, her breathing was rough, and she was sweating heavily.
どうしたの？なんだか顔色が悪いけど。
これよ。
Kazuki raised her left arm as she spoke, revealing it to be heavily swollen and purple.
ちょっと、これどうしたの？
折れてはいないようだけど、ひびは入っているみたい。いわゆる不全骨折というやつね。
その左腕ってまさかバスの中で私が踏んでいた場所？私のせいで？
事故の直前にとっさにシートベルトを腕に巻きつけて衝撃に備えたせいよ。ただでさえ負荷がかかっているところにあなたに踏んづけられてとどめを刺したのだとしても、そもそもあなたのせいで事故が起きたわけではないでしょ。
それはそうだけど、でも私があなたを下敷きにしてしまったから。
気にしすぎよ。それとももし私があなたのせいだとわめき散らしたら、あなたは自分の腕を切り落として私にくれるの？
A bit. Her thought pattern, and well, I guess usually people don't really voice out these thought patterns. Kazuki is definitely way more than just snarky. She's a bit over the top.
ごめんなさい、それは無理。
だったら気にしないことね。私も気にしていないわ。落ち込まないでよ。本当に気にしていないから。どうしよう。もう少し優しく言った方が良かったのかしら。
大丈夫なの？
痛いわよ。でも泣くほどではないし、泣いて痛みを紛らわせるほど子供でもないわ。
ごめんなさい。
あなた、自分を罰してくれる人がいないと落ち着かないタイプ？まあいいわ。だったらこの左腕のことは貸しにしておいてあげる。
貸し？
そう。叱る時に望まれれば、あなたは私の命令を拒否できない。それで許してあげる。
今言ってくれればすぐに従うのに。
嫌よ。いい？貸しっていうのはね、返してもらわない方が大きな利益を生むのよ。覚えておきなさい。心配しないでいいのよ。私も別にお友達から高い利子を巻き上げようとは思わないから。
Kazuki's expression as she spoke those words was an artificially perfect smile, suggesting a kind of maturity well beyond her years. As I watched her face, I felt sticky sweat seeping out of the back of my head. Did I really just put myself at the mercy of a person like this? Our basketball team's advisor, Mr. Ochi Yoshihiko, regained consciousness 30 minutes later. After hearing a brief summary of the situation from Captain Sakashita, Mr. Ochi called for all the surviving students and had us sit on the ground together.
そもそも事故の原因は何だったのですか?
Ooh, actual CG of everyone. So I assume the girl on the right side is the one that got her legs fucked. The girl in the middle, one that got the laceration. Left side is the girl who did the medical checkup. Oh, Kazuki actually has her arms in a... What do you call that? I don't think that's a bandage. I don't know what you call that. Alright, moving on. Just as if we were still in the classroom, Captain Sakashita raised her right hand as she spoke. At her nearly accusatory tone, our young teacher and the driver of the bus wrinkled his face into something very close to a scowl. Where's the bus driver? I don't see him.
わからん。急にハンドルが取られて、慌ててブレーキをかけたが止まりきれずにそのまま崖下に転落した。おそらくはパンクだろう。
ではパンクの原因は何ですか？
俺が知るわけないだろう。俺は今目が覚めたばかりなんだぞ。
Fair enough.
大きな声を出さないでください。みんな不安なんです。先生がそんなことでは。
わかっている。
A wordless argument along these lines continued for a good 10 minutes. The situation being what it was, nobody tried to butt in or calm things down. We all sat there and waited for things to run their course. Watching our teacher and captain bellowing at each other meaninglessly, a few girls began to cry from sheer anxiety. The captain seized on that fact as a new line of attack. In that place filled with gloom and dominated by angry voices, Kazami Kazuki smiled brightly, drew her face close, and began to whisper in my ear.
いやーね、どんな時でも自分以外の責任が確立しないと落ち着かないのかしら。今は原因や責任の所在より話し合うべき重要なことがもっとたくさんあると思わない？
Well, I don't know how Kazuki thinks, but if I was in her shoes, like I said, currently, I'd probably not even think about what the group is doing and do my own business while they don't really keep an eye on what I'm doing. Basically, I would prioritize my own survival over the groups. True enough, but I couldn't understand what she expected to accomplish by murmuring this to me. It wasn't like I had the ability to redirect the discussion. Complaining wasn't going to get us anywhere. If anything, there was a good chance this might make the situation even worse.
そこ、こそこそと何を話しているの？
See? I told you so. When you get spotted gripping in the shadows, of course you're going to get told off. As I hesitated, searching for some kind of excuse, Kazuki abruptly raised her right hand and asked for permission to speak.
パンクの原因ですが、おそらくは廃材を積んだトラックの荷台から何か鋭利な金属片のようなものが落ちて、それを私たちのマイクロバスの前輪が踏んだのだと思います。
根拠はあるの？
バスのタイヤを見てください。
As directed by Kazuki's words, everyone present turned to look at the tires of the overturned bus. The front wheel on the right side was neatly torn around its circumference, cracked into two vertical halves.
そう。例えば尖った金属の板のようなものを踏んでしまい、そのまま車体のどこかに引っかかって回転するタイヤを連続で傷つけ続けた結果、最後にタイヤが破裂したのではないかと。
Watching Kazuki explain her theory with words and gestures, the majority of us felt the pieces falling into place. It made sense.
今時の車のタイヤは釘を踏んだ程度なら一瞬で空気が抜けてしまうことはないそうですが、金属片でタイヤを裂かれてしまえばどうしようもないわ。また、そんなものを踏んづけた先生が悪いわけでもない。たとえタイヤが裂けてパンクしても、直線道路であったら安全に止まることはできたはず。あえて何が悪かったのかというのを決めるのであれば、カーブの途中でタイヤが破裂したという運のなさが一番悪いわ。そんな悪運の中にあって、ここにいる私たちは少なくとも命だけは助かった。今はその幸運をどう大切にするかというのが大切じゃないかしら。
こんな状況で私たちに何ができると？
絶望しないための努力なんてどうかしら。つまり前向きな希望探しの話し合いなんて素敵じゃないかと私は思うのだけれど。
Rather than grieving over your poverty, fantasize about what you'll buy if you win the lottery. You'll sleep better at night. That was Kazuki's argument in a nutshell. Although, if she'd said it outright, it was obvious she would have angered the captain. And so, at Kazuki's request, I took my notebook in one hand and repeated the details of our situation to the group. We were surrounded by a dense sea of trees without so much as an animal trail running through it. The cliffs hung over us like an overturned mortar bowl, making a climb back to the road impossible. and our cell phones couldn't find a signal. To escape alive, our only option was to walk away from the road and into the forest. But, probably because of a meteorite that fell nearby, there seemed to be dense deposits of metal scattered throughout the area. And thanks to these pockets of concentrated magnetic material, our compasses would be of no use. Personally speaking, I don't think that's too much of an issue. Like, I know if you're lost inside of a forest, it can be very difficult to get out of a forest or even make your way back to the forest. But you don't necessarily need a compass. You can try to, you know, scatter stuff around so that you don't get lost at the very least. Or maybe make a makeshift, makeshift knife and carve something on the trees, right? Like, I'm not really a survivalist or someone who has survival skills, but isn't that like easy to do? It seemed plausible that this strange hole with its overhanging walls had been gouged into the earth by the impact of that meteorite. The bare rock of the walls had turned to glass under the assault of momentary high temperature. Even reading out this dry, factual summary of our situation from the notebook was enough to drain my spirits. Where exactly were we supposed to find hope in any of this?
こうなってしまえば、下手に動き回っていたずらに体力を消耗するより、おとなしく救助を待った方がいいわね。
はい、それが最善かと。
Although I wanted to escape this disturbing place as quickly as possible, there was no guarantee that any of us would return alive if we wandered off aimlessly now. Well, we kinda already had a spoilers that knows that everyone is dead except for you, Amane, so help definitely did not arrive. Continuing the investigation of our surroundings until a more certain path presented itself, while waiting for the arrival of a rescue, seemed the wiser choice by far. I felt a wave of relief wash through my body at the captain's decision.
あら、それはどうかしら。
I looked behind me with a start. Kazami Kazuki, the very person who'd shoved me onto this little stage, had spoken those words. Kazuki, the very person who had told me to explain things clearly and logically, so no one acts rashly, had disrupted the discussion just as we were beginning to reach a consensus. I couldn't begin to understand why. I glanced at her face with an irrepressible frown.
どういう意味かしら？何か反論でも？
ええ。確かに下手に動き回ったところで生還できるという保証はどこにもない。けど、待っていれば助けが来るという保証もどこにもありません。
それぐらい私にも分かっているわ。一生ここで助けを待つつもりはないけれど、十分な調査もしないまま密林に踏み込むのは自殺行為だとは思わなくて？
十分な調査とは何をもって十分と判断するのですか？食料どころか飲み水すら潤沢ではないこの状況で腰を据えて考えている余裕があるとは思えません。
Exactly.
それならいっそ気力と体力が充実している今のうちに腰を上げるべきかと愚行しますが。
Heck, if I was Kazuki, like I said, I probably would have gone straight alone without these guys knowing. Like, maybe I'm such an asshole, but I would probably take all that I can from the food and water that I can hold and some survival gear and then just go by myself.
それは本当に愚行よね。私たちのような素人が考えるほど山は甘くないわ。私の判断が気に入らないのなら、どうぞあなたを一人で森に入られて結構よ。
Okay, Captain.
口が過ぎたようです。申し訳ありません。
わかればいいのよ。
If it was unexpected to hear Kazuki raise an objection in the first place, it was just as surprising to see her withdraw her opinion so easily. Still holding my silence, I asked Kazuki a question with my gaze. What was that all about? In response to my glance, Kazuki returned her own wordless answer with the movement of her eyes and a jerk of her chin. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
それでは次に私たちがするべきはベースキャンプの確保になります。横転したバスから使えそうな道具を持ち出す作業に取り掛かるというのはどうでしょう。
そうね、そうしましょう。では手分けをして作業に取り掛かります。それでよろしいですね、先生。
ああ、そうしよう。
After that, we were divided between a group collecting things from the bus and a group responsible for sorting those items and preparing to erect our tents. We set about our work in silence. I was assigned to the collection team because of my sturdy physique, which meant I was stuck with the job of crawling into the overturned bus and dragging out whatever luggage I could find. The work itself wasn't that difficult in a physical sense, but inside the bus, the bodies of the two girls who had died instantly were still left untouched. And every time I passed by, I couldn't help but see resentment in their faces. Showing my lower lip, I forced out the willpower to go on. Although I wasn't conscious of it, the strain on my nerves built with every trip. Why not get them out and like bury them then? Why are you guys just leaving them there? Unless their body is like stuck. Finally, the dim interior of the bus was all but emptied of luggage, with the exception of the personal belongings of the dead. Probably because I passed the corpses so many times now, I had grown somewhat used to their expressions of bitter regret. Or maybe it would be more accurate to say that my emotions have been paralyzed. And so, I joined my hands before the body of Shikanai Tsukasa, my senior by 2 years, and whispering, "I'm sorry," pulled her luggage free.
どう？急に大きな声を出さないでちょうだい。耳が切なくなるわ。かずみさん。びっくりした。急に声をかけないでくれる？急ではない声のかけ方ってあるの？なんなの？何か用？手が空いたから死体から私物を剥ぎ取るのを手伝いに来たのよ。その言い方はどうだろう。どうせ聞こえちゃいないわよ。
As she spoke, Kazuki gently closed Shikanai senpai's eyelids.
もう一体は？あっち2年の小沢先輩。
Okay, so the one that died, there are 2 people that died and 5 that were injured, right? Or was it 4?
小沢？ああ、自己管理のできていない体型をした人ね。どうして素直に太ってるって言わないの？そんなことを言ったら彼女が傷つくじゃない。どうせ聞こえちゃいないわよ。まあ、なんて罰当たりな。あなたがそれを言う？
You know that that was the thing that, you know, Kazuki wanted to come out of your mouth, you know, Mane.
私は毎週日曜日の朝には教会に行くわよ。本当に？そっか。私は笑えばいいの？もう遅いわよ。デブの先輩は私に任せて、あなたはその荷物持って外に出ていなさい。デブって。
Kazuki was a truly elusive person. At times, she reversed herself with dizzying speed. Had she seen that I was depressed, and turned to this black humor to make me smile?
あ、そういえば。さっきはどうして急に部長に反論を？あんなの予定になかったじゃない。ああ、あれね。あなた、あの時の部長の顔を見た？見たけど。あなたの口から状況説明を聞いているうちは良かったのだけれど、あなたが会話の主導権を握り始めた途端に不機嫌な顔になったのよ。
Okay, so she just wanted to direct her sullenness to something else.
だから、あの人がおかしな反発意識を持つ前に、私が反論してみせたのよ。私が口を挟めば、あの人は当然噛みついてくるだろうし、その上で私を言いまかしたとなれば、しばらくは機嫌も良くなるだろうしね。じゃあ、わざと？もしあの場で私が口を挟まなければ、食べ物が心もとなくなる3日後ぐらいには音を上げて脱出しましょうと言い出すかもしれないでしょ。でも私の意見を押しのけて通した意見を覆すとなれば、私の意見が正しかったと認めることになる。
The captain's obstinacy? Obstinacy? I know that's from obstinate, but obstinacy? That's a very weird word for me to say. Toward Kazuki had become a powerful reason for her to keep us where we were.
そこまで考えて。長いスパンで見れば、負けることで得る利益もあるということよ。こんな状況では一瞬先の自分すら想像できないかもしれないけれど、10日後の自分を想像して行動しなさい。私、あなたのそばにいると息が詰まりそうだわ。
The thing is, we might not survive in 10 days.
そう？でも、短くもたった一度の人生よ。一人ぐらい天才と知り合いになっておくのも悪くないわよ。天才か。 っていうか、自分で自分を天才って言っちゃうんだ。人に言われると腹が立つけどね。あなただって人にバカだと言われれば腹は立つのに、自分のことを私バカだからと言って相手を油断させるでしょ。
Fair point.
実際バカだもの。ならあなたはバカじゃないわよ。本当のバカっていうのはね、天才を敵に回す人のことを言うの。私たちって確かお友達だったよね。ねえ、そう。あなたのそういう頭の回転の速さは私気に入っているわよ。恐縮です。
What the heck? Geez, seriously. I must be something like a toy to her. I did feel discomfort at the effortless control she had over me, but I'm sure Kazuki knew as well as I did that I wouldn't oppose her in the end. That realization was irritating in its own right, but truthfully, by this point, I'd gotten myself so aggravated that I felt like smiling instead. Having a loud sigh of surrender, I turned my attention back to stripping the dead girl of her possessions. It took an hour to retrieve all the camping gear and personal belongings from the overturned bus. But now we had to face a difficult question. What do we do about the two bodies still in the bus? That was the problem. Somebody raised the idea of having everybody carry them out together, but considering the cramped interior of the bus, it would be impossible for all of us to participate. Someone else suggested that we should leave them be, rather than clumsily dragging them around, but... At Kazuki's words, it's hot today, isn't it? How long does it take for a corpse to begin rotting, I wonder? Exactly. That idea was instantly abandoned. Finally, everyone gathered there fell silent. Our pleading glances settled on the only man present, Mr. Ochi. And after a few minutes, when he placed his hands on his knees and stood with the words, "I'll do it," every one of us breathed a sigh of pure relief. Damn, poor guy. Having entered the overturned bus alone, Mr. Ochi emerged with Shikane's body cradled in his arms. The only ones who witnessed that moment were Kazuki, Captain Sakashita, and me. The others cast their eyes to the ground or turned away, avoiding the sight of their acquaintance's corpse. Probably because that sight was the distillation of a pitiless reality. To see that moment would have meant facing the truth they wanted so desperately to forget. To be honest, when I was collecting luggage from the bus, I had placed a hand on Shikane's body with the thought of carrying it outside. Startled to learn exactly how cold a human body could become when its blood stopped flowing, I withdrew my hand instantly. I hadn't felt this kind of shock when I touched my grandmother's body in the casket at her funeral. Grandma's death, which I'd known would come eventually, wasn't nearly that cold to the touch. Touching this girl's death, a death I couldn't view with composure or resignation, turned my spine to ice. I didn't ever want to feel that way ever again. Watching the removal of the bodies in solemn silence. Oh wait, I guess the driver is actually Mr. Ochi, right? So the driver and also the team manager is Mr. Ochi, so there actually is no other driver. It was just Mr. Ochi. Okay, I get it now. I was wondering why there was no sprite for the driver. Watching the removal of the bodies in solemn silence, I reflexively brought my hands together and began to pray for the dead. From behind my back, I could hear whispering voices. That body, what do we do with it now? Bury it somewhere, I guess. Can we just do that? When we're rescued, won't her family be mad? We can't assume help will arrive right away. We can't just leave it like this. It's summer after all. Apparently sensing our anxiety, Mr. Ochi decided to bury the 3 bodies some ways away. Okay, so it is 3 bodies, right? I was remembering right that there was 3 body dead. At the very least, it wouldn't do to leave them where we could see them. Practically speaking, if we'd watched those corpses rot before our eyes, we would have put our mental health at risk. In a situation like this one, panic is the greatest enemy. For the same reason, we decided it would be best if none of us acted alone. We paired off into units of 2. To put things nicely, the idea was to establish a dynamic of mutual support. But when you got to the heart of the matter, we were supposed to watch each other like hawks for signs of abnormal behavior. If one member of the pair caused a problem, both would be held responsible. Well, I'd been 80% sure it would turn out this way from the moment I'd heard about the rule. Kazami Kazuki named me her partner, the look on her face saying it was the most natural thing in the world.
というわけだからこれからもよろしくね。
As she spoke, Kazuki moved to show me her left arm, now wrapped in a sling. Her meaning was clear enough. My arm was disabled thanks to you, so it's only natural that you pick up the slack from me, right? I didn't have any objection to acting as a unit with Kazuki. Judging from her words and actions so far, she was intelligent and knowledgeable. If I follow her lead, things shouldn't go wrong. Even so, I couldn't quite repress my feelings. Something like dissatisfaction, or maybe confusion. Above all, I was tired of dancing so obediently on her strings.
いじめ目的以外で私を選んだ理由があるのなら聞かせてもらえないかな。
いじめるために選んだのよ。文句があるなら聞いてあげる。対処はしないけれど。
それって言うだけ無駄じゃない。
ストレスは減るわよ。長生きしようと思ったら溜め込まない方がいいわ。特に今のような状況ではね。
ああ、そう。
他に何か質問は？
私をいじめて楽しい？
不思議。どうして聞きたくもない答えを聞きたがるのかしら。はっきりと言葉にしないと興奮しないタイプ？言いにくいから遠回しに言うけど、あなた神聖の魔女よ。
聞くんじゃなかったわ。
You shouldn't. You are weird that way, Amane.
大丈夫。私は神聖のサディストだから、きっとうまくいくわ。私たち。
Sorry. With those words, Kazuki held out her uninjured right arm toward me. Unable to immediately understand the meaning of her gesture, I stared blankly back into her face.
あなたも手を出してくれないと、私一人では握手はできないわ。
あ、そうか、握手ね。風見さんに握手なんて一般的な概念があったことに驚きだわ。
私のことは和樹さんでいいわ。あなたのことはあまねちゃんでいいかしら。それじゃ改めてよろしくね、あまねちゃん。
こちらこそよろしく、和樹ちゃん。
I gripped Kazuki's outstretched hand with as much force as I could muster. Her hand was so small. It felt like I could quite literally crush it if I squeezed hard enough. And yet, even then, when all I could see ahead of us was uncertainty and danger, I had the feeling that small hand would save me. Alright, we are still in the same day, mind you.
テントと食料を配給します。
But with that, I'm going to end the episode right here.
セ
I
ーブし
think
ますか？
I actually read through all of this in one single sitting back in the day, which was very draining, mind you. This was very draining. It's actually insane how draining this route is. But like the thing is, it has good pacing, but it went on for so long that you start to dread what's going to happen. It literally felt like you were inside of the scene itself. But alright, I am done with the episode. I'm going to drink some coffee. I know it's 7:38 p.m. right now, but I need my coffee before I do my exercise, before I bike. And yeah, I'm only gonna be doing one episode today, but tomorrow, hopefully I can do some more. I am excited though, because we are now in Angelic Howl, the main, as you call it, route of Amane. Before, it was just like the prologue to our route, which is just full-on sex scenes. But hope you guys enjoyed the episode. The uncensored Amane stuff will be on Patreon. This episode will also be early on Patreon. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.